Good evening and good morning to many of you. I am Dr. B with Powertalk Livestream, and I am the ultimate legacy builder. I connect with global leaders around the world to inspire and bring ideas and bring strategies to people around the world, whether it's education, business, manifestation. But today, I have a beautiful and amazing guest, Dr. Shauli Mukherjee. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
It is Mukherjee. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you and I apologize for the
It's
pronunciation.
perfectly fine.
But we're going to have a wonderful topic today because she has been a director of School of Education and dean, student affairs at Adams University in India. She's a global thought leader, inspirational speaker, former founder, principal of STEM World Schools. And I'm delighted that you're here. I've been an educator for more than 30 years. In fact, I'm ready to retire that sector of being a director of special education. I mean, that has been my passion for many, many years. So I'm delighted that you're here. Thank you for saying yes and being here on the Power Talk show.
You're most welcome. It's absolutely a pleasure to be on this platform today.
Thank you. Well, tell us, I mean, how did you get started in education and why education?
So it has almost been 23 years now that I am in the education sector. I have been the principal as well as the founder principal of some of the reputed international schools in West Bengal, India, among which I would definitely like to mention STEM World School, which is the first STEM school in West Bengal.
Wow.
So that also happens to be my brainchild. So after spending more than 2 decades in the field of school leadership, last year I had actually stepped into the domain of higher education, where currently I am the director of School of Education and Dean of Student Affairs at one of the premier universities of Eastern India, and that is Adamas University.
Mm.
Additionally, I'm associated with a lot of premier educational organizations across India as well as globally in senior advisory capacity. And as a global thought leader and inspirational speaker, I almost speak regularly in different national as well as international forums pertaining to topics related to education, women empowerment, youth empowerment, and allied issues. So, well, how it started for me, I have always, I have been a passionate academician for the last 2 decades. And I've always wanted to do this. And this is exactly what I'm doing. So, for me, Dr. B, I would like to say that I'm a kind of a person who has actually turned her passion into her profession.
Oh.
And for me, it has been a very, very fortunate and conscious intersection between what I'm good at doing and what I love doing. So it is something like ikigai, the greater purpose for which you live. So I always wanted to work in the sphere of education because I believe that that is one thing which can literally has the power to change people's lives.
Mhm.
And you get that opportunity to touch, to inspire, and to impact the lives of many around you, and
Mhm.
the ability to create visible and tangible difference in people's lives through the ennobling power of education. So this is something which I've always wanted to do, and this is something which I'm doing right now.
I love it. And as educators, I think that we build and we create new leaders, we create and pass on the knowledge and the skills in different industries of the world. So I think that many times educators are underpaid and under recognized for their fabulous work because we do create a lot of professions in the world. And yet, but anyways, I'm here because what I know that you've tapped into the STEM world of schools, and I think that's one of the big things that's really happening in many of our schools around the world. Why do you think that's important, and how did you get started in that piece of work?
So, as I told you, that I have been working in the education space for the last 23 years.
Hmm.
So, when I started off initially, I started off teaching in a very, very reputed international school in India. But unfortunately, I would like to say that what I have been seeing there is that a lot of traditional and conventional educational norms were in practice. And I would also like to say that it's still the norm right now because
Hmm.
our histories have changed, our geographies have changed. But unfortunately and sadly, our education system is still the same. It is still the byproduct of that 19th century industrial revolution, which promotes that one size fits all educational structure, which
Hmm.
gives very, very little highlight on the learner's innovation and creativity. So that is sadly the situation of our current education system. So the more I was involved in the education sphere, the more I sort of, started understanding the fact that the things that we had been doing are extremely wrong. I mean, there are so many flaws embedded in our current education system. Say, for instance, we give so much of prominence and importance to standardized testings, which relies heavily on the learner's conformity, ability to conform and to comply, and very less on the learner's ability to create and innovate. Right from the very childhood, we tend to applaud when the child is able to draw and color within the lines, but at the same time, we expect that child, when the child will be growing up, he or she will be growing up to be an out of the box thinker. I mean, what an irony. So we tend to highlight that cutthroat competition is so very important. So we tend to, uh, you know, uh, uh, impress upon the fact that you have to come first in everything, no matter what, be it in academics or in sports or anything. But the two, we tend to forget that the two important skill sets that are actually required to thrive in the 21st century VUCA world happens to be collaboration and cooperation. We give so much of importance to intelligence quotient and forget that emotional quotient is equally, if not more important.
Hmm.
More than 80% of your success, maybe it is professional or it is personal, relies on your ability to understand your emotions as well as the emotions of other people with whom you're interacting with. So, if that is so, why does our current education system give so much of importance to cutthroat competition, standardized testing, drawing and coloring within the lines, and intelligence quotient? So, these are the questions which I have always been asking myself. And these questions actually acted as powerful triggers
Hmm.
to think in a lot different manner, and that in fact materialized in my setting up a school with a difference, and that is STEM World School, which is a very, very different school where there are no standardized testing. There are not even textbooks till a particular grade. There are no system of
Wow.
homework. And it's a completely stress free curriculum where the happiness quotient of the teachers, as well as the children, as well as the parents, is
Hmm.
extremely high. So I'm so happy that I have been able to create that school with a great difference. But that has literally come out of my 15 years of experience in working in that traditional and conservative educational norms.
Hmm. I love what you're saying because as an educator and as an educator in special education, we have a lot of students that learn differently. They take in information differently, and the output of information is differently. So many times we tend to believe that they didn't get the information or learned it because the way that we're asking them for the information is not the way that they can demonstrate their performance. So myself, I had back in, I think, oh my goodness, 2017, I think, I created my own academy, right? High school academy. It's called Unified Academy because of the same thing. My son was in high gifted classrooms, and yet what was happening is that he would finish the work and then he would get more work. So it's like punishing him for completing the work really fast. So then he had behavior issues, right? Because when they would give him more work, he would say, "Why do I have to do that?" Right? So there was a challenge. So by that time, I pulled him out, created an academy to create an alternative setting to meet the needs of students that are not made for a traditional schooling. So I applaud you for what you did, because there's so many kids out there that they need to go beyond the standardized testing, beyond the traditional schooling, because they learn different. And I believe that we should tap into their gifts and their talents and really develop them rather than waiting when they grow up, and then they start implementing those talents. I think it's sometimes it is a waste of time, and then they forget what they were passionate about.
Absolutely. Dr. B, what I feel is that the traditional and conservative educational norms force our young learners right from the very beginning to draw and color within the lines metaphorically. And that is to comply, to conform, and to compete. So every child is given the same amount of time to learn the same thing in the same way and preferably on the same day. So no wonder that the children, they actually struggle to realize their true potential, because as you had rightly pointed out, and this is something which is so very close to my heart, that each and every child is born with a unique blueprint. Each and every child is different, and when they're born as inherently creative, and they're born as intuitive, creative, and curious. But sadly, as they grow up, and when that method of indoctrination happens unwillingly, they tend to forget that creative potential with which they have been born with. And that is an unfortunate part. And I believe that as responsible adults, be it as an educator or as a parent, we have an enormous responsibility to nurture that creative instinct, that creative potential of each and every child that they're born with. So that is our responsibility, and we cannot escape from that responsibility.
Absolutely. I think that as parents and as educators, it's our responsibility to nurture their talents and their passion and integrate it in such a way with their learning, because I mean, we want to teach them. I know that in the traditional schooling, we're teaching them the core subjects like the social studies and the histories and the English and the mathematics. But how do we integrate their passion, right? How do we make relevant that concept and that skill and how it links into real life? Because I think that even when we graduate from high school or from college, how much of that do we really take with us, right? So I think it's powerful what you're talking about. And the other thing was language. Language was an issue for me when I was growing up because I'm a Latina, I'm Mexican. and I was in a monolingual classroom,
Hmm.
raised in Chicago. So for years, I thought something was wrong with me. I thought,
Hmm.
I was like, why am I not learning? In fact, that's how that because of my experience, I went into the educational area and in special ed because for a long time I thought something was wrong with me. But
Hmm.
it was the way that we're teaching that I couldn't grasp, and that it was the language. You know, they were not able to communicate with me. I couldn't understand what they were telling me. So you imagine the struggle, and then the gap that was created because of the learning and the language.
Right.
But I mean, still, I think that I educated myself in so many ways, and I was able to catch up and really learn theories and then bring them into practicality. Like, how do they
Hmm.
really make sense in the classroom? Because for more than 30 years, I've been in the educational setting, and it's helping educators understand how students learn, right? Specifically the ones that struggle. So,
Right.
do you have special programs in India?
Yes, absolutely. We do have. We do
Mhm.
have. We have a system of inclusive education where we do take care of the special needs of the children. But I won't say that it's happening in a very in a qualitative manner. I won't say that because a lot of changes are required there because even now there's a lot of stigma associated with these issues, you know,
Mhm.
because as you have rightly pointed out, it's not only about you, which had happened so many years back, but unfortunately this is also something which is happening right now, that if a child is not able to understand or grasp what is being taught to
Mhm.
him or her, so the onus is on the child, but rather the onus should be on the educator, rather it should be on the system. So
Mhm.
how you are teaching, that is very, very important. And here I would also like to mention one point which I would like to take from what exactly you said a little earlier, that we tend to make a mistake as teachers or as educators when we refer to ourselves as that I'm a teacher of English, or I'm a teacher of history, or I'm a teacher of geography. So we tend to associate ourselves with the subjects. The problem is we have to understand, and it's high time that we should realize that we are not teaching subjects. We are teaching the children, and children are human beings.
Mhm.
So the human element in education system has to be brought back. You know, it has to be brought back, or
Mhm.
it has to be retained. So the human element in the education system is something which is sadly missing. We have to understand that the children are very much like the natural resources. They're sometimes buried deep, and we cannot even see and we cannot even find out their real talents and
Mhm.
their real areas of passion unless will look for them and create suitable condition in which they can actually thrive and they can show up. So the onus is always on us. And I think the recent global pandemic has made this very, very clear that the world doesn't require mechanical minds. Mechanical minds loaded with facts and figures, minds which are systematically formulated to think alike. No, that is not what the world requires. What
Mhm.
the world requires are creative and innovative minds which are capable of divergent thinking and out of the box ideation. And in order to nurture those creative, those innovative sparks, there has to be a paradigm shift in the mindset of the educators first. That is my viewpoint.
Absolutely, because I think that we have to really engage our kids and our students with the critical thinking, with the problem solver, right? Because in this world, we're going to encounter circumstances or challenges. And what do you do when you didn't learn? how to cope with it, right? And I think that as educators, if we teach them the skills to be problem solvers, to be critical thinkers, to be able to be innovators and think out of the box, I think that when they hit that wall, like I was talking to other speakers today, when people hit that wall, instead of stopping and feeling that there's an obstacle in front of you and that there's no way out, that they can see the choices they have in front of them, either breaking the wall, climbing it, or going around it. But being able to solve the problems that they're encountering, or be resourceful in the sense of, now in the internet there's so many ways that you can find information and connect with so many people. I mean, look at us, how we connected globally. Sorry. So we've connected globally, and it's magical on how this happened. I mean, you're in India, our time difference is so different, but the connection is strong, and that is amazing. So I
Absolutely.
think we need to teach our kids the same thing, our,
Very
our,
true.
our young adults and our children. Yeah.
Very true. And what I feel is that, as you have rightly said, that if we really want our present generation to evolve into creative problem solvers, we have to give them the permission, rather, to pursue the three important P's, and that is play, passion, and purpose. So it is only by cultivating play, passion, and purpose that one can really evolve into a creative human being. That is how you evolve into, uh, you know, a truly creative and an innovative person. And not only that, as educators and as parents, and rather as responsible adults, I think we have to stop stigmatizing failures and mistakes, and we have to realize the fact that both are essential components of an effective learning experience. We cannot stigmatize failures and mistakes. It's only through the process of failures and mistakes that a learner is able to evolve into a complete and a whole human being. So the problem is we cannot only highlight on the outcome. We have to give more prominence on the process. So this is how a growth mindset in the child develops. You know, it's only when the child goes through numerous setbacks, obstacles, and hindrances, it is only then that the child learns the essential skills that will remain with him or her for the entire part of his life. And that is how he learns to address the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous 21st century world, how to address the complexities of the world. So I think that this learning starts from a very, very early age, and we have to be very, very, I think, careful regarding all these issues.
Absolutely. And you touched on another point, because learning involves the struggles and the challenges. And one of the things that really got to me were those red big marks on my paper,
Yes.
the F or the check marks. And it's like, it does something to the mind, and it does something to the spirit, that creates a sense of failure, a sense of not being good enough. and and then you grow up with this feeling and belief system that you don't want to take risk, because we're afraid of that failure, and afraid that we're going to be marked again with that big F,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So what do you suggest that we could do as educators instead of that big F, big
So,
red F?
Dr. B, I'm so happy to state here that uh, you know, uh, that is one of the first things which I had cancelled out in my previous school. So my brainchild, that is STEM World School, which is the first STEM school in West Bengal, I had, uh, created a lot of new things out there, a lot of innovative pedagogical practices which I had actually introduced in that school. And one of them happens to be that the educators cannot use the red ink for correction, because I feel, and I've always felt, that anything which you write with red, any comment that you put in red in that paper of a child, that is nothing like, that is nothing short of a, a big slap on the child's face. I mean, this stays on in the child's mind for longer period than we can even assume of. So that is the first thing which I had actually, banned in that school. So the teachers cannot use the red ink for correction. So that school, you will find that multicolored, inks for correction, and the children would feel so happy to
Mhm.
see, colorful papers. So sadly, we come from a kind of a culture which celebrates board results, mark sheets, grades, marks, and report cards. So
Mm.
we need to come out of that mindset. We need to come out of that mentality. And we have to give more prominence, more importance to the process through which the child actually learns. So
Mm.
the child learns by making numerous mistakes. A child learns by encountering a lot of failures, and the child also has to understand that it is by learning, unlearning, and relearning that actual learning takes place.
Mm.
So the onus is, as I have always been saying in numerous platforms, is that the onus is definitely on us to make the child understand that this is how learning takes place. So more
Mm.
important in 21st century is the way, when we are able to, impress upon the fact on the child that how to learn. It is not what to learn, it is
Mhm.
how to learn. So that is more important.
I love it. I love it. And I honestly feel that there's another doctor that is into education, and would love to connect with you and him, and for us to really write a book or something. We need to connect and take it global, because I think that this problem is not just in India, it's not in the United States, it's a global problem, that we feel that these standardized tests, that what we're teaching is vital, when exactly you've said something that is key. It's the how students learn. And not only the how, I think we have to take it that next step. How do we know that they know, right? And it's not just by those standardized tests, but they can demonstrate it in so many ways. They can demonstrate it through presentations, they can demonstrate it through a project. I mean, there's so many ways that they can really present the information, and if they grasped the concept. So I think it's powerful what you're saying, and I really love this conversation, and we can go on for hours. But but I'd love to invite you back, and I'd love to connect and do something together about education, and maybe we can have.
Absolutely, it would be my pleasure,
Yeah.
because education has been my, not only it has been my forte, but it has been my greatest passion. So I
Mhm.
stand for everything that has to do with real and true education. So
Absolutely.
it would be my pleasure.
Yes, and then I know that in a district that I'm in, we were looking for like a key speaker for about
Mhm.
10 minutes. Like, it's really short.
Uh-huh.
And I'll talk to them, and then we'll see if we can make it happen. It might be your night, though. That's the only thing, because it's our morning. But let me figure all that out, and then I'm going to get in touch with you. The other thing is, there's so many things I just want to talk to you about, but I know we can do it like off the show later.
Sure.
But I really want to thank you for being here on the show. One of the things I always ask the participants that come, the experts, is what quote do you have? It could be yours or someone's quote that you would like to share that's going to inspire people to take action.
I think that since I belong to the field of education, so my answer would also be pertaining to that field only. I believe that since today we have been speaking about 21st century education, I would just like to say that a 21st century educator needs to have a striking combination of two qualities. And that is that the educator has to have a beginner's mindset. When I say a beginner's mindset, I mean that that person has to be completely adaptable, flexible, and responsive to new ways of learning. That is one area. And at the same time, the educator must also have a challenging spirit, a questioning spirit through which he or she can challenge and question everything around him or her that he or she feels has become redundant, has become obsolete. So, a striking combination of a beginner's mindset and at the same time a challenging and a questioning spirit is inevitable for making of a 21st century real and true educator.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And for those of you that are watching, I mean, I suggest that you go back, watch it from the beginning, especially if you're into education, you're a teacher, you're a director, or you really want to make a difference. We're going to ask three favors that you like, that you comment or ask any questions that you might have. And most importantly, that you share this video because you might not be so much interested into this topic, but you know someone that is really wanting to impact and make a difference in the education. Like Dr. Shauli said, the 21st century education. So together we can make a difference and we need your help to help us spread our message. And again, where can people reach you and find you?
Thank you so much, Dr. B. It had been an absolute pleasure to be on this platform today and sharing my insights with the viewers and definitely interacting with a wonderful person like you.
Thank you. Where can people find you?
I'm quite active in social media
Mhm.
platforms. Like I'm very much there on Facebook and I'm very much active on LinkedIn.
Okay. So if you want to connect with Dr. Shalee, tell me the last name again. I will.
Mukherjee.
Okay, but Kurchi, connect with her on social media. And then I am Dr. B. I am the ultimate legacy builder with the Power Talk show. And it's all about connecting with entrepreneurs, with leaders around the world to really impact and make a difference in a bigger way. So, again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here and blessings to you. And we will connect again very soon.
Absolutely looking forward, Dr. B.
Okay. Have a good
Thank you. Bye
day.
bye.
Bye.